Rocky Balboa, or Rocky 6 if you want to be fucking pedantic about it. This is a sequel that I never really thought ever would have happened, and I have vivid memories of going to the movie theater when I was 10 years old at the time, and I was like, damn, I'm actually watching a Rocky movie on the big screen here? This is insane. And Sylvester Stallone's signature role, Rocky Balboa, has returned after a long hiatus. Now long retired, Rocky runs a Philadelphia eatery and mourns the loss of his beloved wife, Adrian, who tragically passed away 3 years prior. Yearning to recapture a bit of his glory days, he plans to re-enter the ring for a few low-profile local matches. But that all changes when Rocky accepts an exhibition match against the reigning World Heavyweight Champion Mason the Line Dixon. And yes, that's Sylvester Stallone making puns out of the names of his enemies. Now let's just set the stage real quick in 2006. Sylvester Stallone, after the release of Rocky 5 and after everybody was like, damn, this franchise has really taken a downward turn, he kind of kept a low profile for a while. He did a lot of straight-to-DVD releases going into the turn of the century and into the new millennium. And nobody was really talking about this dude anymore. He was kind of a lost relic. So he decides to go back to the drawing board and he writes a brand new story around his baby, essentially. Because keeping in mind, this is the role that made the man famous back in 1976. So fast forwarding 30 years later, you certainly don't blame the man for looking for redemption for the catastrophe that was Rocky 5. And man, even on a rewatch, if this guy was looking for redemption, I think he absolutely got it. Rocky Balboa is a perfectly fitting bookend to the main Rocky franchise. Mainly because this is what I'm talking about. This is what they wanted Rocky 5 to do. They wanted to ground this in a little bit more reality after the silliness of Rocky 4. And Sylvester Stallone is pouring every fiber of his being into this performance. He is acting like this movie is his last. And some people could argue that he's Oscar-worthy in Rocky Balboa. Now, needless to say, he was not granted a nod from the Academy at all, but damn, is he great in this. And Burt Young as Paulie. This is what I wanted Paulie to be here. Once again, going back into the darkest depths of his being. This is what made the character so interesting in the first Rocky. Now he's getting laid off from his infamous meat plan and what have you, and he's just a freaking lost soul. And he's ironically the one who's pulling Rocky out of that funk, because Rocky basically spends this whole first act driving around the city of Philadelphia reminiscing about the times when Adrian was actually with him. And yeah, okay, I'll address it. This is a very controversial topic amongst hardcore Rocky fanboys like myself, is actually how they handle Adrian in Rocky Balboa. Because initially, Talia Shire was supposed to be in this movie with Sylvester Stallone. But here's the deal. The whole dynamic between Rocky and Adrian had gotten so stale by the time even Rocky 4 came around. The arguments they were having sounded very, very similar to arguments that they had in the past. And so Stallone was writing the script and he's like, okay, how can I make this a little bit different? How can I really tear Rocky's heart out? You kill Adrian off, of course. And I think that works wonders in the movie's favor to add so much emotional levity to the proceedings. And it makes a lot of these scenes, including the one he shares with Paulie in the meat plant, you know which one I'm talking about if you've seen this thing. But man, it just really, it tugs at your heartstrings. These are tearjerkers. While not to mention also being incredibly inspiring. Now, Rocky Balboa's central message is fairly simple. Doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down. What more so matters is how hard you get knocked down and how you recover from that. And Rocky's mourning over Adrian's death and his struggle to move forward. The boxing ring is a humongous allegory to that aspect of life. And put together, I think these two story elements work beautifully. Because damn it, Sylvester Stallone has so many inspiring speeches in this movie, including to his now grown-up son, who's played by Milo Ventimiglia. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's really good in this movie as well. But man, like, you buy that these two are estranged father and son. You really feel that relationship is incredibly fractured. Let's talk about Antonio Tarver as our villain, Mason the Line Dixon. He was basically being fed all the scrub opponents. Boxing is kind of a lost art in the year 2006 when this was filmed. And he's basically the antagonist only because of the same thing Mickey was doing at the beginning of Rocky 3. He was giving Rocky a bunch of bum opponents because he didn't want Rocky to lose and ruin his reputation. The same thing happens to Mason Dixon here, only he's a bit of a hothead. And I swear, I'm not making this up. Only Sylvester Stallone could write this. The reason why Mason Dixon challenges the older Rocky Balboa to a fight is because Mason Dixon loses a computer simulation against Rocky. Like, literally a video game decides this whole central conflict between hero and villain. I mean, growing up as a kid who played Madden a lot and loving watching the Madden simulations of the Super Bowl every year and what have you, which is very ironic seeing as how the big game is this Sunday at the time of recording between the Chiefs and the Eagles. But my word, like, just sitting here today and seeing that a video game simulation was that big catalyst to get that challenge out there, it sounds very silly, and it very much is. But I think Rocky Balboa has just enough emotional gravity to really elevate it to the next level and into that upper tier of Rocky movies. I think in terms of quality, this one is better than 3. I don't know if I like it more than the first 2 movies just because I love both of them pretty much equally. And I love the way this movie was directed. It all feels extremely grounded. The musical score by the great Bill Conti is also outstanding, as it usually is. I love the brass instruments that flare up in the final training montage before the big climax. Like, it really does feel like this movie is a lost art in so many ways, just even in the tiniest of symbols. Because number one, boxing as a whole, not really a whole lot of boxing fans out there that I knew of in the mid-2000s. Rocky Balboa's entrance music to the big match at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. High Hopes by Frank Sinatra. Only Rocky Balboa, ladies and gentlemen. And while I'm talking about that final fight, I love that it's partially presented like an actual HBO pay-per-view fight. Hell, they actually got Michael Buffer to do the ring introductions, which I'm sure he loved doing. But that leads me to my one big nitpick about Rocky Balboa. I actually was not that big of a fan of the editing. Because yeah, even though the final fight does turn into the usual epic montage that it is, like, there were so many quick jump cuts that were thrown in there. I would have thought Kevin Dunn was a big producer on this with how many jump cuts were in there. Like, if he wasn't, WWE would come knocking at this movie's door with how many jump cuts there are, because that seems like a signature. And it got pretty distracting after a while, I'm not gonna lie. But despite all that, the movie's inspiring message, I think, is what carries it over the top, in addition to excellent performances anchored by the one and only Sylvester Stallone. If you have not gone back and revisited Rocky 6 recently, I would definitely recommend that you do so, because believe it or not, this is in the upper tier of the franchise. I'm going to give Rocky Balboa an A-. A franchise that's still alive and kicking, and a fitting end to the main Rocky saga. But we are not done yet in the build-up to March 3rd, because now we're going to get into some really, really amazing stuff. Next up in this playlist is the first Creed movie from 2015, and it's the big introduction of Michael B. Jordan into this franchise, and I cannot wait to bring that to you guys. If you're new to the channel, do consider becoming a subscriber. Tap on that notification bell as well so you don't miss another second of this hard-hitting action. Hit that thumbs up as well on your way out. Let me know what you thought of Rocky Balboa down in the comments section below. Is this your most nostalgic sports movie of your childhood as well? Guys, making these videos is so much fun. Getting to interact with you lovely people makes things all the more fun. Guys, y'all are the best. Stay tuned for more exciting videos hitting this channel very, very soon. And with all that being said, back talk commence.